for reasons beyond our understanding, every single company related to gaming decided to either make an announcement, unveil a new game, or be part of one of the biggest leaks in gaming history. Here's everything you need to know. Disney's D23 Expo was held this month, and although most of what was announced related to television and movies, there were also a surprising number of gaming announcements. The long-awaited Marvel's Midnight Suns, from the creators of the XCOM series, finally received a release date of December 2nd, and will also be receiving a 5-part prequel shorts series, starting October 31st. Tron Identity was also announced, which will be a visual novel adventure, made by the same team who developed Thomas Was Alone. The title is set to drop sometime next year. The biggest reveal, however, was for a World War II game featuring both Captain America and Black Panther. Not much is known about the title right now, but it's being headed by none other than Amy Hennig, who previously served as the game director of Jak 3 and the creative director of the first 3 Uncharted games, before going on to direct the now cancelled Project Ragtag Star Wars title. Not much is known about this new game, and considering they didn't even say what it was called, it's probably safe to say that we won't be seeing this launch for another few years. It might be hard to imagine that Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard happened only earlier this year, but it seems we're still seeing ripples from what would become the largest purchase in the industry's history. In a discussion between Xbox boss Phil Spencer and PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan, Phil told Jim that Call of Duty games will remain on PlayStation platforms for quote, at least several years after Activision's current contract with Sony ends. This conversation would eventually be brought to the public, where Jim Ryan would respond to the offer by calling it inadequate. Jim continued with quote, Microsoft has only offered Call of Duty to remain on PlayStation for 3 years after the current agreement between Activision and Sony ends. We want to guarantee PlayStation gamers continue to have the highest Call of Duty experience, and Microsoft's proposal undermines this principle. As you might imagine, many observers were quick to point out the sheer hypocrisy of this stance, as PlayStation has long made exclusive titles a cornerstone of its larger strategy. Phil Spencer would also confirm that Call of Duty titles would become day one Game Pass releases once the acquisition is finalized, which in itself is an insane value proposition for the service. The cost to buy every Call of Duty title on Steam currently sits at over $1,000 which is dwarfed in comparison to the $10 subscription, especially for a series that has dominated sales charts for over a decade. PlayStation will still have access to Call of Duty for the foreseeable future, but for new players who have yet to pick up a 9th generation console, this might make Microsoft's offer a little more tempting. This month also saw one of the largest leaks in gaming history, with a hacker targeting Rockstar take the source code for both GTA 5 and GTA 6, but they would also go on to release 90 minutes of a GTA 6 testing build. The build featured the long-rumored male and female lead protagonists, a surprisingly well-developed city, as well as what looked like more flexible ways to interact with citizens within the world. For obvious reasons, we are not going to show any gameplay footage, which has been making the rounds online, as although we've talked shit about nearly every single corrupt government and dipshit authoritarian leader over the past 3 years, there's no fucking way we are going to risk pissing off Rockstar's legal team. Rockstar themselves would publicly state that the hack would not cause any delays in the development of GTA 6. However, these kinds of leaks can often be detrimental to a company's policy regarding things such as work from home agreements. Leaks like this can also have an impact on employee morale when they have to listen to people complain that their clearly unfinished video game looks unfinished. There's still no word when the game is set to release. However, many speculate that 2025 would be the safest bet with the limited information we have available. Meanwhile, Cyberpunk revealed its only planned expansion, titled Phantom Liberty. Hogwarts Legacy confirms the absence of Quidditch, and 343 announces that local co-op will never be coming to Halo Infinite. Nintendo was the next company ready to start announcing what they have planned on the horizon, but to keep the video length reasonable, we'll be speedrunning the highlights. First up, A shit ton of game releases were announced for Switch players, but in the interest of time, we'll just have Krusty put them all on screen now, so we can keep to our without the bullshit title. Along with these releases, a number of Nintendo 64 titles will become available to the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pass, including Mario Party 1, 2 and 3, Pilot Wings 64, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, 1080 Snowboarding, and Excitebike 64. GoldenEye will also be coming to both Switch and Game Pass within the near future, while Pikmin 4 will be dropping sometime next year. The biggest part of the showcase, however, was unquestionably a trailer for the long-awaited Breath of the Wild sequel, titled Tears of the Kingdom. Already considered a Game of the Year contender, fans will need to wait until the 12th of May next year to find the magical Tears of the Kingdom as returning series protagonist, John Zelda. Xbox wasn't going to be the odd one out this month and not have something to announce, which is why they did what they always do and throw a ton of new games on Game Pass. New additions this month include Assassin's Creed Odyssey and Deathloop, but they would also announce that Guilty Gear Strive, BlazBlue Cross Tag, and Ni no Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch, will be joining this lineup in 2023. By extension of Microsoft, Blizzard also unveiled the next Overwatch hero, which will be launching with the release of Overwatch 2 on October 4th. Kiriko will be the first support added to Overwatch in 1,295 days and kicks off a new stage of the franchise where its free-to-play model can facilitate new content faster than any other time in the game's history. Kiriko herself looks to be a high-skill support, which will reward mechanical prowess as much as game sense, and she looks to be incredibly fun going into the new 5v5 game format. Fans of Overwatch will know that there's been a lot to say about the transition to Overwatch 2 and what that means for the series, but I want to leave this discussion for its own dedicated video that I plan to release next month. It's just good to have Overwatch back. Meanwhile, Cyberpunk becomes the most played single-player game on Steam, Genshin Impact is becoming an anime, and Nvidia announces its new line of 40 series graphics cards that no one will be able to afford. Our next big event was the PlayStation State of Play, which had its fair share of big announcements. Tekken 8 was revealed, which showed awesome great looking gameplay and cool environments, but they weren't ready to commit to a release date quite yet. Hogwarts Legacy also received a new trailer, as well as the announcement for a PlayStation exclusive quest. Moving on, a previously Japanese-only Yakuza spin-off, titled Ishin, will be made available to international PlayStation players as of February next year, and although a notoriously wacky series, it might not be as strange as the reveal of a game called Pacific Drive, which will be a horror driving game set in a post-apocalyptic world. The creators of the Nier series would also unveil their next project, an open-world samurai game titled Rise of the Ronin, which will be out sometime in 2024. The biggest part of the showcase, however, was a new gameplay and cinematic trailer for God of War Ragnarok, which is set to release on the 9th of November. A lot of players are already calling Ragnarok a clear Game of the Year winner, but with other competitors, such as the critically acclaimed Elden Ring and the flawless Game of the Century, Saints Row, it might be a race that's too soon to call. The month of September also hosted the latest Ubisoft Forward showcase, and this time around, the company went all in on Assassin's Creed. The presentation showed off multiple new Assassin's Creed titles, with the closest being Assassin's Creed Mirage, which will take place in 9th century Baghdad, where players will take the role of Basim ibn Ishaq, who fans may remember from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. To the sheer excitement of both myself and many other longtime fans of the series, Mirage will return to its roots by narrowing the focus of the title into the three core pillars of combat, stealth, and free running, which have been more or less abandoned or heavily altered in the last three main installments. Fans within the franchise have often become split between older Assassin's Creed titles, which were more true to the original vision, and the more recent entries, which were RPG-focused experiences that tended to stray away from the traditional formula. Ubisoft have stated that Mirage will be a more focused game, running at about 20 hours in length, with a lower price point than previous entries, and as anyone who attempted to finish Valhalla will tell you, this shift is an excellent change. In another perhaps rare Ubisoft win, they also announced that Mirage will not feature any gambling or loot box mechanics when the game launches sometime next year. With all of this in mind, although I wasn't personally a fan of the RPG style of Assassin's Creed, many within the community tended to favor this over traditional entries. This is why Ubisoft have also unveiled Assassin's Creed codename Red, which will be an RPG-focused title set in feudal Japan, a setting which has been long requested by the community. Not much is known about this one at the moment, but it's fair to say that we won't be getting our hands on it until 2024 at the very earliest. Codename Red will be the first title set to launch, along with the Assassin's Creed Infinity project, which Ubisoft describes as a platform which will tie all the games together and act as a single entry point for new players to the series. What the fuck Infinity actually is hasn't been well clarified, as on one hand, it could act as a glorified launcher for all future games in the series, but on the other hand, it might be a way to add features like multiplayer integration or even cross-game progression if they really wanted to go that route. However, if you thought they were done with announcing games in the series, then you'd be a fucking idiot bozo, because the company would not only tease another traditional title, which seems to be set in 1600s Germany during the Bamberg witch trials, but they would also unveil codename Jade, a mobile title set in ancient China. Neither of these titles should be expected to release until the end of next year, at the very earliest, but it looks like Assassin's Creed is back on the menu. In terms of new releases, September saw the release of The Last of Us Remake Part 1, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Splatoon 3, NBA 2K23, and Temtem. October is set for a big month of game releases, including Overwatch 2, A Plague Tale Requiem, No More Heroes 3, Gotham Knights, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Scorn, New Tales from the Borderlands, and Uncharted, Legacy of Thieves Collection for PC. Viewers who want to keep up with non-gaming news can be sure to check out our regular coverage before the end of the month. Krusty, roll the outro.